It's Mark Yegge here, wealth architect and lifestyle investor. Let's take your life to the next level. Welcome to the Wealth Architect Podcast. Hey there, welcome back to What is Bitcoin? I'm your host, Mark Yegge, taking you through the rest of this fun world of Bitcoin. Hope you're enjoying it. And, this time, what I'd like to do is talk about whole, partial Bitcoin purchases and how to spend your Bitcoin. But before I do that, let me just remind you that if you could please subscribe to this video series, then I can make sure that I can email you and keep you up to date whenever there's new and breaking news. And there's a lot of it these days on Bitcoin, or whenever there's a nuance that I think you should have, because I want you to have the best understanding of Bitcoin possible. So go ahead and click the link below and subscribe to this series if you haven't done already. Also like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble or any other channel. There should be a link below so that we can stay connected when it comes to Bitcoin or other things, investments and world financial related. So anyway, welcome back. Let's get going. I want to talk about purchasing Bitcoin. Like anything else, it's priced against something else. Nothing has value unless it's priced against something. Now, you can look at money or dollars or currency as stored value, and that's what most people do. So you take one currency and you exchange it for something else. It might be a massage, like I mentioned back in video one. It might be an apple. It might be a car. It might be other dollars or yen or euro, or it might be another cryptocurrency. And bottom line is anything gets its value when it's related to something else. You can, trade Bitcoin for gold. You could trade gold for Bitcoin. So it's priced against another medium. And so it's priced against the dollar. That's what most people in the U.S. price it as. But if you're in Europe, you price it against the euro. If you're in Japan, you price it against the yen, most likely. Or you price it in widgets. You price it in the value of one Tesla, or you price it in the value of 10 apples. Whatever it is for you, just keep using the same one and you'll get a relative value for what it's worth. And then, of course, there's a fluctuation of the underlying value of the other thing, right? If the dollar's going up in value, the price of Bitcoin in dollars will probably go down. That's just the way it works. It's an inverse relationship. But the price is really, at the end of the day, determined by supply and demand. Now, we know that there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever made. So that's it. The supply is limited. It's not like it can fluctuate like the dollar or the yen or the euro. You can't create any more than 21 million. That's in the algorithm and it'll never be changed. So it really becomes more of a demand function. If more people want Bitcoin because they feel it's a safer store of value or an easier medium of execution or exchange, or a way to transfer money back and forth, if they believe it has advantages, if it has utility, it's going to gain value. The question is, when is it going to gain that value and when is it going to catch on? It's already been caught on. I think 130 million people have already used Bitcoin. It's at the very early stages of adoption right now, and I believe it's going to continue. There's something called an S curve, and it's at the very bottom of that S curve, and as it goes up the S curve, it accelerates. So remember how Amazon started out as just selling books, online, and everybody thought, oh, that's kind of a silly idea. Well, look at Amazon today. The books online was at the very, very beginning of the S curve, but they saw something. They saw a trend toward people buying things online, and now we buy a lot of things online. In fact, we probably buy most things online. When everybody said, oh, people will never stop going to the grocery store, they'll never stop going to the department store. And so those things have evolved. And I believe that Bitcoin is the same way. Not sure about the other cryptocurrencies, though, because they're not decentralized like Bitcoin is. So, and speaking about Bitcoin, it's got that limited supply. Okay, I've gone on a lot on that. So the question I always get is, do I have to buy a whole Bitcoin? A lot of people think it's like a stock share. You have to buy a certain one stock share, certain amount. You don't. There are unlimited almost ways that you can buy Bitcoin because it is divisible. It's like the dollar can be divided into pennies, right? So it is divisible. And so you can buy nearly any amount that you want. And then bottom line is I do want you to remember that one Bitcoin always equals one Bitcoin, right? There's no medium of exchange when you compare it to itself. And so as Bitcoin goes up in value, it's worth more. If more people accept it, then it's got even more value. But that's a nuanced thing. Now, they did break down the Bitcoin and divide it into what are called Satoshis. So if you hear of a Satoshi, think of it like a penny, but it's got a different definition. A Satoshi is 1/100th millionth of a Bitcoin. You can divide it by 100 million. And so that's how granular you can get with Bitcoin. Imagine if Bitcoin does go up to, $10 million a coin. I'm not saying it will or won't. I'm saying imagine if it does. Now you really need to be able to divide it. So they've created these things in honor of Satoshi Nakamoto called Satoshi. So when you hear the term stacking Satoshis or stacking sats, That's what they mean. Certain people are maybe buying $50 worth a week, and they buy a certain number of Satoshis that'll get them $50 worth of Bitcoin, and that's how they do it. So they stack sats. Now, how do you spend your Bitcoin? Well, you need to find somebody that's going to accept it. So if you have Bitcoin, you own it, you want to spend it like I did in El Salvador, well, you have to find somebody that's willing to accept it. In El Zonte, in the beach in El Salvador, everybody accepts Bitcoin, and they're happy to have it because they believe that it's a store of value and it's a long-term savior for that country. And so you can instantly use Bitcoin to buy and sell goods and services. It happens in a flash. It's amazing. And all you have to do is you get the other person to be able to accept the Bitcoin. That's simple. How do you do that? Well, you download an app, right? Because Bitcoin doesn't exist in a physical form. Like most things right now, it's in digital form, right? Even when you spend your credit cards, you can spend it with your Apple Pay or your watch, and you can use it on your phone. And you're probably not handling as much cash as you might have handled maybe 20 years ago. Cash is really becoming a smaller part of transactions, for better or for worse. And so you'll be downloading an app, just like your other apps, your banking apps, your credit card apps, your spending apps, Venmo, PayPal. And I use a lot of them, but I do use the Cash app, and I'm going to show you the Cash app in just a second. So first, you're going to download and set your app up, and then you're going to have to give them some personal information, your name, your address, probably your phone number, email address, things like that, to make sure that it's you. And there's certain things called KYC. If you hear KYC, that means know your customer. So some exchanges and banks and apps are really going to delve into who you are, and some aren't going to be so curious or require that information. But in either case, you need to go through and answer a certain amount of questions to set up your app. Next, you'll have to add some fiat currency. By the way, you're already ready to accept Bitcoin, but if you want to buy Bitcoin, you can, without having somebody send you Bitcoin first, which you can certainly do, you'll add fiat currency to your app balance. So you might want to take $1,000 a week of your check and put it into your app, and you'll have fiat currency sitting in this banking app, or this Cash app in my case. And then you can send Bitcoin to anybody else with an on-chain address. So it's really simple to do. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But all you need to do really is be connected with an app. Now, what I'm going to say about the app, remember before I said don't have all your currencies and crypto and Bitcoin especially online, keep things off the chain. Well, when you put them back on, just put a certain amount that you need. Otherwise, you keep it in cold storage. Keep it off the internet. Remember, that's really critical, is to keep your coins safe. But if you want to go on a trip and you want to spend $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, like I did when to El Salvador, I put $1,000 worth of Bitcoin onto my wallet, and I just transacted it like it was a credit card. It was really simple with my phone. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up my Cash app. And so I go to my crypto apps, and you'll see all these crypto apps that I have, probably too many. And then there's the Cash app right there, the green one. Push that button, and now your Cash app is open. I want to go ahead and let's say I want to send $100 to somebody. I hit 100 and then pay, and then it pulls up who do I want to pay. Now I can select anybody in my contacts and put them right into the contact bar there, and they'll pull right up, and it'll go right to them if they have a Cash app. Or if they don't have a Cash app, they can give me their Bitcoin address, okay? Probably via QR code, and I'll show you that in just a second. So it's pretty simple. Now, where do you want to get this cash from? You can either get it from your debit card or a credit card, or there's lots of different ways. Attach it to your bank, things like that. But this Cash app makes it easy, and the other ones do as well. Now, let's say you want to go a little bit more high tech, and you say, all right, I want to use the QR code function. Well, I have a QR code function of my own. This is my address, and I just hold it up to somebody, or I can send it to them via email. Or if they have a QR code, I just scan it, just like what you're seeing there. I just find the QR code, put it in there, and boom. Then they can transact it with me. Pretty simple, right?
So I hope you got the nitty gritty on how we actually apply. Remember to like and subscribe below. Remember to subscribe to this email series on what is Bitcoin. It's totally free, but I want you to understand it. And as we continue to evolve, there are going to be a lot of developments, and I want you to stay abreast of it. So go ahead and subscribe to this email, What is Bitcoin series below. And certainly I will love to keep in touch with you that way. Now, our next segment is going to be Bitcoin as a store of value. You've heard of gold, right? People put money in gold as a store of value. They also put money in the dollar as a store of value, but it's not that good these days. And maybe we can use something else like Bitcoin as a store of value. So we'll be talking all about that in the next video. Hey there, it's Mark Yegge. I hope you're enjoying the show. Say, if you're interested in becoming involved in crypto technology, especially Bitcoin, but don't know how to go about it, I have some resources for you to go over on my website, wealtharchitectpodcast.com. And if you're a high net worth investor, I have something built especially for you and my other accredited investors. It's a fund specifically dedicated to the exciting future of Bitcoin and crypto. It's called the IntelliGrowth Digital Fund. Hey, listen, I know that if you haven't dedicated a few hundred hours to learning what's going on in Bitcoin space, it can be overwhelming. And that's why me and my team have spent thousands of hours determining the best way to invest, whether it's payment networks, storage, Bitcoin as a currency or a store of value, or even just how this technology is changing the world. I firmly believe that Bitcoin and crypto technology is here to stay. So you might as well have some exposure to it before it really takes off. I always tell my investors that we are all going to need to understand Bitcoin. The only question is whether you do it now, while it's also a great investment, or later when billions of people are using it every day, kind of like the internet. Anyway, if you want to find out how to be an investor, drop me a line here, mark@wealtharchitectpodcast.com, and we could see if it's right for your portfolio.
You've been listening to the Wealth Architect Podcast with Mark Yegge. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Share and tell your friends. See you soon.